Welcome to this new series on the channel that I will be doing once every month, reviewing the top 5 most popular anime on Crunchyroll at the time of recording. The popular list is probably different from region to region, I'm not quite sure how it works. But regardless, I'll give you a good idea of the trending anime on Crunchyroll and my recommendations on them, based on at least the first 3 episodes of each of them. Some of them I may have watched more, some of them I may have watched only a few episodes. I'll let you know. That way at least you'll have a good idea on whether or not you should spend your own time watching that specific anime. So I hope that makes sense. Without further ado, let's get into the first installment of this series. First up, Jujutsu Kaisen. Let me not get too into spoilers for one of the biggest anime out right now. No surprise that JJK is at the top of the popularity list, but if you're wondering what it's all about, let me lay out the basics. In a world of curses, basically monsters born from negative energy, our protagonist, Yuji Itadori, ingests a legendary cursed object, which makes him a vessel for that curse. His mission is to swallow all 20 fingers left by this curse before he is executed, killing himself and the curse with him. And in order to handle that monumental task, he joins a school where he can hone his Jujutsu sorcery talents. Did I do a decent job of explaining that? Let me know down below.
I see. No, I don't.
Anyways, it's a typical action shonen anime with top tier animation and great voice acting. A simple premise to follow, yet surprisingly confusing rules about how Jujutsu sorcery works. The show is currently in its 2nd season, and without spoiling anything, as a manga reader, I will just say that the show is currently adapting what I will say is one of my favorite arcs I've ever read in a manga. And if you're ever thinking about jumping into the show, now would be the time. I highly recommend this show. Catch up right now. There's only less than 40 episodes out right now, and the 2nd season will wrap up in a couple months. So hop on the bandwagon to one of the highest quality anime out there. Next up is One Piece. Oh boy. I'm not going to get into a whole backstory on One Piece. Monkey D. Luffy, on a journey to become the king of the pirates. I'll leave it at that. I'll cover the reason it's so popular right now, even though it's basically always hovering around number 1. If you want to avoid light spoilers for the anime, skip to this point in the video. So, if you have been living under a rock, you wouldn't know that Luffy just achieved a new form, and it was very controversial on the internet from what I've seen. But nonetheless, a long-awaited moment for manga readers to finally see Gear 5 Luffy fully adapted. In tandem with that, the show is currently wrapping up the Wano arc, which has been going on for damn near 5 years, and considering that's one of the most loved arcs by fans, there's no surprise it's rivaling the hype of Jujutsu Kaisen for the top spot. With that being said, I would not recommend you go and watch this right now just because what lunatic can seriously recommend watching something with over 1,000 episodes? I love One Piece, but even I haven't watched it all. I've read the whole manga, so if there was a recommendation I would make, it would be to read it instead, because I just think the manga is better outright, and not to mention, a lot easier to get through. At the end of the day though, I'm going to make this a monthly series, and One Piece is basically always going to be in the top 5 most popular anime of the moment. And for a show of almost 25 years, you gotta give it its props for staying at the top so long. Third on the list, Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. First, best next episode preview noise I've ever heard. The story follows a young boy, Rudius, who is the reincarnation of a 34-year-old incel that died in a car accident in his old life, with his memories still intact. The man who died came from a world that seemed like our own, but he is reborn in a world that seems more medieval-like, with fantasy elements like magic and elves incorporated. The fantasy elements aren't over the top, but in this world, unlike his last life, Rudy has a great talent for something. Magic. One thing I appreciate about the show is that it has a very relaxing tone, with the family element being a big focal point, at least in the first few episodes I've watched. The characters each have their own charm to them, from the parents, who sure like to fuck a lot, to their young boy Rudius, with a life lived longer than them both. Because of his already adult mind, Rudy shows an interest in the more intimate parts of the female body more than a typical boy would, but perhaps he behaves a bit more like a teenager than an adult. Still, I do like our main character because he's got a resolve to make his second chance at life something to be proud of, and that in itself is charming and adds a nice theme of redemption. The animation is good, not too flashy, the voice acting is very good, and I find myself genuinely interested in discovering more about the world along with Rudius. Overall, I would recommend watching this anime if you're looking for something with a slightly more mature tone that can still make you laugh. Number 4 on the list, The Great Cleric. I'm not sure if reincarnation anime are all the rage right now or what, but we got another one here, with a very similar premise to the last one. A salaryman in what seems like modern day Japan gets caught by a stray bullet and dies, but finds himself reincarnated in a world of magic and monsters, with his memories still intact. He starts off as a 15-year-old healer, naming himself Lucille, and unlike Mushoku Tensei, in this world, Lucille at least, is able to see his own stats and skill level, very video game style, even as a mana pool. Unfortunately, I honestly cannot see how this show made it so high up the popularity list. It seems very generic to me. The fantasy world is fairly uninteresting, kinda like something you'd see out of a low-budget JRPG. The characters are each pretty bland and look like stock background characters, and though making the main character a healer is something different to a typical isekai anime, at least the few episodes that I've watched haven't made me care all too much about his journey to make his second life better than his first. The animation is also pretty clearly low budget, which I'm not going to shit on a show for having a low budget.
We have no money.
But it certainly doesn't catch my eye in any way, and seeing reused animations and long still zoom shots without any payoff later in the episode, or without good writing to go along with it, is a bummer. But maybe I haven't gotten to the exciting part of the show yet. I've only watched 3 episodes. Overall, I would recommend skipping this anime based on the first few episodes. Maybe the light novel is more interesting, but at least its anime counterpart leaves a lot to be desired. Number 5. Am I Actually the Strongest? Another reincarnation anime? What the fuck's going on? I seriously don't know where this trend came from. Somebody comment down below and tell me why this concept is so popular right now. Anyways, another shut-in loser gets reincarnated, and just like Mushoku Tensei, he starts off as a baby in a fantasy world. The goddess who reincarnated him made him super OP, but in the world he's introduced in, their mana measuring devices don't measure that high, so it makes him seem really weak. Thus, he gets thrown aside by his parents, who happen to be the king and queen of the kingdom, but we quickly see just how strong this baby actually is. He manages to leave an impression on a demon who dedicates her life to serving him, and is then scooped up by a warrior named Gold and raised in his household. There are also levels in this world, but not as video game-like as the Great Cleric. It's only mentioned in the first few episodes. Not too clear on how the leveling works just yet. What is clear is that our main character is very, very OP, and pretty ruthless too, which, even though he's not in the fantasy world, his mind is still that of a full-grown adult. All he ever wanted was to be a shut-in and watch anime and read manga all day, but he seems perfectly happy in playing the hero of justice with his new powers as well, because of how much stronger he is than everybody else. So far, there's no outright villain in the show that's able to counter his power, but I'm only 3 episodes in, so who knows. That is much needed in order for the show to become more entertaining. Also, we got a little Code Geass reference here, I don't know, maybe it's just me. The animation is pretty generic and rough around the edges overall. It looks weirdly overexposed at times and can be a bit of a sight for sore eyes. Overall, I would recommend giving at least the first couple episodes a try. Definitely not for everybody, and if your cap for reincarnation anime is 1 per year, I would give the nod to Mushoku Tensei. Now, this is supposed to be a top 5 list, but in the middle of making this I got sick and this dropped to number 6. It used to be number 5, and I like it so much that I'm going to include it in the video. Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. Perhaps the best surprise of the summer.
But a welcome one.
I've watched all 9 episodes of this anime, and for a very oversaturated genre, this anime take on zombies is extremely fun and refreshing. The basic premise is we have Akira Tendo, a young man just entering the workforce for a production company, and quickly discovers just how hellish the hours at such a place are. Must be working for Studio Mappa. Anyways, when the zombie apocalypse breaks out, it actually makes him ecstatic that he doesn't have to go to work anymore, which is a departure from the gloomy mood we often see main characters in when they discover there's a zombie apocalypse. But it's a nice departure, and Akira's almost oblivious attitude to just how horrible the situation is comes across quite charming. As the title suggests, he makes a bucket list of the things he wants to accomplish before he becomes a zombie. And beyond that being both funny and stupid, it gives us something that I think is extremely important to have in the zombie genre. A clear goal. I assume that when he eventually accomplishes the 100 things on his bucket list, the story will reach its end. And considering shows with zombies can often feel like a never-ending cycle of hopeless survival like The Walking Dead, it's important that we have something to look forward to as viewers. And it made me buy into the show. I am now along for the ride. But it doesn't matter if I like the premise if the characters suck, and luckily, beyond just Akira, I like the rest of the crew he builds up. His college buddy is charming and has great chemistry with Akira. The fitness chick, who is extremely uptight and has her own list of 100 things to do to avoid becoming a zombie, is not as annoying as I thought she would be, and serves as a nice balance to Akira's personality. And finally, this carefree, busty blonde who's in love with Japan is introduced late, but she meshes with a lighthearted mood nicely. As for the zombies in the world, they don't really follow logic, which is weird to say for a fictional virus, but the main goal of zombies, you would think, in any medium, really, is to eat people. But there's a scene in the show where they have a clear shot at taking a bite out of someone, but are then distracted by some noise elsewhere and had to follow it. It definitely made me go, well, that's stupid. But it's an anime and it's entertaining, so we forgive those little things. Overall, I would highly recommend watching this show, whether you're into the zombie genre or not. Nothing about it is scary. It has nice themes of following your dreams, making the most out of life, and living in the moment, which are all things we could probably do more of in our lives. And with that, those are the top 6 most popular anime on Crunchyroll. This is my first installment of the series. I'm sure I can improve. Let me know how I can down in the comments below. I want to make this series as nice as I can because it's also nice for me to check out different kinds of anime, and I have a lot of fun with it. So if you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, again comment down below how I can improve because I'm sure I can. With that being said, stay tuned for December's top 5 most popular anime video. I sure hope they change by then. Take it easy, and peace.